Captivity. And I say this with a heavy heart. There's been a lot of stuff in the press recently about the so-called torture porn thing, movies in which basically it's just torture, gratuitous torture for the sake of it, and this is off the back of the success of Saw. And I do think the Saw series is boring. I mean, that's the worst you can say about it. It's boring and silly and stupid. And then along comes Captivity, and basically the story of Captivity is a model is kidnapped, and she's put in some horrible dungeon by some crazed maniac who makes her dress up in short skirts and stiletto heels, and is really unpleasant to her because of something that happened with his mother. And there's another guy who appears to be in there with her, and she falls in love with him, except of course she doesn't, and then a whole bunch more nasty stuff happens. Now, in America, there was a fuss about the poster of Captivity. It was a 4-panel poster that said capture, confinement, torture, termination. It was images of what appeared to be the star of the movie in these sort of various states of horribleness. And quite rightly, a lot of people in America said, I'm sorry, I don't want that. That's really gross and crass and stupid. And Joss Whedon, in fact, you remember Joss Whedon, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, wrote on his blog about, this is really not on. And so they all got slap wrists. And now the movie finally comes out. And whenever people write articles about torture porn and horror movies, they generally haven't seen the movies, and you want to be able to leap to their defence and say, you know what, you don't know what you're talking about, you haven't seen the films, you don't know anything. And the worst thing about Captivity is a truly terrible film. Let's make no bones about this. It's a grotty, nasty, sleazy, not in a good way, stupid, infantile piece of dung, okay? And it has no right to be in anybody's cinemas whatsoever. It's made worse by a number of things. One of them is, it's directed by Roland Joffe, the man who made The Mission, the man who made The Killing Fields. Yeah. The man who, used to be up there for Oscars, somebody who was taken very seriously, now has his name on this movie. And it's written by Larry Cohen, cue The Winged Serpent, It's Alive. If you're a genre fan, Larry Cohen is a smart guy. And you really sit there watching Captivity, which is really foul. Not foul in a kind of cannibal holocaust kind of, it's so extreme, some people want to change. Just foul in a sort of really prurient, leery, misogynistic in that kind of way that you thought just genuinely wasn't legal anymore. It's like the 60s and the 70s never happened. It's like nobody ever wrote all the great feminist works, and we're right back where we started, that it is perfectly okay to take women and abuse them hideously under the guise of entertainment. And the worst thing about Captivity is this. It was made a couple of years ago it's a Russian-American co-production. I have to say that on the basis of this, I want the Cold War to start again now. Okay? I want missiles out. I want full-on aggression, because if this is what cooperation looks like, I'm not having any of it.
Maybe a little extreme.
No, sorry, you haven't seen the film. I mean, really.
That's also true.
You need to see Captivity to see how bad it is. And what happened was they made the film, and then I think played at the Sitges Film Festival in 2006. And the American distributors they said, well, actually, we want more gore. So they went back and they substantially reshot more of it. So not only is it really pretty foul and grim, but it's also incoherently foul and grim. So you end up with a film that has got Roland Joffe, it's his film, and I'm sorry, he has to take full responsibility for it. So as far as I understand, he was looking after the reshoots as well. It's really sleazy and nasty and cheap and stupid and horrible to women and horrible to humanity and horrible to anybody who thinks that if you're going to have gore and filth, I'd like it to be coherent gore and filth. And the worst thing about it is that the next time you read one of those torture porn arguments, you're going to have to say, well, the real shame of it is I didn't agree with any of it. And then I saw Captivity, and it's like, as far as own goals are concerned, and it's always the case, it's outsiders that mess it up, right? You give it to proper horror directors don't make films like that. Films like that are made by people like Roland Joffe, people who wander in and say, oh, I can do a horror film. I'm very intelligent. It's a thriller and a love story. No, it's not. It's an erotic. No, it isn't. It's a horrible, you should be ashamed of it. You should be thoroughly ashamed of it.
That's a pretty spectacular fall from grace. If most people familiar with The Mission, most people familiar with them, Killing Fields, Heart in the Right Place.
Lucifer falling from the heavens and plummeting into the eternal pit of darkness visible.
Yes.
Had nothing on the decline of Roland Joffe at the moment he said, you know what, Captivity, I'm going to sign on for that. That sounds like an absolutely great movie. And then at the moment when the distributor said, Roland, we really like the film, but what we'd like is a lot more gore. And he said, it's just grotesque. And you sit there thinking, it's incredibly boring for a start. I mean, please don't go and see it on the grounds that, it's so extreme, I have to. It's not. It's just asinine, infantile claptrap that happens almost completely accidentally, because it has no brain power whatsoever, to be a really, really nasty, misogynist track that goes some way towards blaming the beautiful woman at the centre of all this for everything that's happening to her. And I just think everyone involved should be hit with a rubber hose.